reason to play into these games. So you understand Cincinnati, they're playing for more than just this year. The group of five has a chance to possibly gain a spot, and this will help their argument if Cincinnati happens to get left out.
But they're on the way up. Technically,
Yeah.
technically speaking, the Big 12 will still be a Power 5 conference when they move up. So I don't know that they're so much worried about that, but that what Martin's saying kind of brings up the silliness of this whole thing and what he was talking about, how earlier, what does perfection mean in the grand scheme of things? How does that mean you're the best? Because when you kind of look at what Cincinnati's going through and we say, well, I think on paper, Georgia and Alabama are the only two teams that can beat Cincinnati. Well, that's silly because 3 weeks ago I said no, but Texas A&M didn't have a snowball's chance of beating Alabama, and they sure enough went out there and did it. That's the whole point of a playoff, is so that you know that this team is better than that team rather than just saying it on paper. So I think in Cincinnati's defense, if they got to find a way into this playoff to show why an expanded playoff is actually a good thing, because then we get to know the outcome. Whether they win or lose is probably beside the point, but just getting to know is half the battle.
Yeah. Cincinnati will be in this top six. We just don't know where they'll be, Mark.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I wish that there was a way to, to me, you take the conference champions and you take one more at least in a playoff scenario. But to your point, they're going to be Big 12, and I think that actually may help them as well this year. I think that helps Cincinnati because if you're a person that believes in the Big 12 and viability, wouldn't you be wanting them to get in this year? Hopefully, with the chance of them representing, it's possible. It's possible that two of the teams would, OU being Big 12 currently, boom. So they get some street cred there, but then Cincy being a future Big 12, if they get in, so they have a couple chances.
Alabama is that number 2 team. Georgia is 1, Alabama's 2, and we're waiting for 3, 4, 5, and 6 to be revealed. But Alabama, according to the College Football Playoff Committee of 13 members, believe Alabama is the number 2 team in the country.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think that's any argument here. And really, they have the potential to, and once again, the committee, I'm not saying this was part of it, but Alabama will either prove that they belong at that number 2 spot or they won't.
Think about the Alabama team. They lost to Texas A&M. How bad did we play that night? I mean, we played. I mean, it took a near perfect game by A&M, a near perfect game, and over a half of bad football by Alabama defensively. You take the whole first half, and then you take the last 2 drives of the second half, and we look like we didn't even know what we were doing on defense. And then you take into consideration, I think Nick Saban's conservative side got the best of him. Bill O'Brien didn't have the guts that Kiffin had, and he kind of pooped at the goal line twice. And 3 times we settled inside the 20 for field goals and got 9 points versus, 14, 17, 21 points we left on the board. And we still had a chance to win the game. So it's kind of crazy to think about.
Michigan State at that number 3 spot.
Okay.
State Spartans up there.
Oh, I missed that one. I had them at 4.
Okay.
Cincinnati's going to be 6, aren't they?
Yes.
That's what I had. Wow.
We're gonna see. We'll see. They're gonna. I mean, they're really
dragging this. Hey, who's 10? Go from 10 for me, Ryan. I'm not looking at it. I'm.
Okay, you gotta give me a second. I'm not looking at the direct poll. Alabama. See, Georgia, Alabama, and everything's not been released yet. But Notre Dame was at that 10 spot.
Notre Dame's.
All right. Wake Forest is 9. Oklahoma is 8. And 7 was the Michigan Wolverines. So did I get it all there for you? Notre Dame, Wake Forest at 9. Oh, Oregon at 4.
What?
Dude, what?
Hey, Jacob, you nailed it. No, Jacob nailed it. Jacob said they're taking head-to-head serious. And that
got Oregon at 4. So they got Georgia, Alabama, Michigan State, and then 4th spot is Oregon. Let's see where they put Cincinnati. Is it at 5 or is it at 6? Or are they throwing the Pac-12 a little bit of a bone out there? Remember, man, this committee, I hate the way it's decided because I don't think these
Ron,
guys,
I think this means that Ohio State's 5 or 6, and they didn't want to put Ohio State in front of Oregon. Jacob said they're taking head-to-head more serious based on the prior rankings, and that seems to be bearing it out.
We're waiting for 5 and 6, and then we'll discuss it. But reading through, it's Notre Dame 10, Wake Forest at 9, Oklahoma at 8, Michigan at 7, and then reverse order is Georgia 1, Alabama 2, 3 the Michigan State Spartans, and then Oregon at 4. And we're waiting 5 or 6 to fill in the gap here in just a couple of seconds as we're watching the College Football Selection Committee, the initial first rankings of the month of November. And this will all clean itself up. There may be some fights at the end, but hey, feel pretty comfortable. If Alabama's able to win, they're in. If not, they won't be. But waiting for 5 and 6, man. They're dragging this out. We're 23 minutes in. They still not filled in the complete chart here. So
Oklahoma number 8. Wow.
But once again, if they win, like if they continue to win, all right, Ohio State is 5, so Cincinnati 6.
Told you. So, yeah. They had to put Oregon up there because of where they ranked Ohio State.
But as you look at this map, remember, the geographical bias is present. And I always hate when they go in a room and they put a chair, or their hat up on a table, and I'm going, that doesn't remove your bias.
Absolutely not.
But it's like a pretend. It's more like a show. And so, and you've also got to remember now, the SEC, there's nothing they can. Well, I say there's nothing they can do about it, but keep in mind, there's a lot of dislike in that room because the SEC is growing and they feel like that, the power will even become more in the Southeastern Conference. Anyway, so biggest reaction is Oregon at that spot?
I would say yes. I mean, to me, I didn't have Oregon in the top 6. I mean, I had them number 7, but wow.
And everybody's saying miss badly on number 4 Oklahoma being, so
I think Michigan is. I just, of course, that's probably personal bias, dislike of Jim Harbaugh, but he's always overrated. So, the Big Ten has 3 in the top 7.
Yeah. So wow. All right. So SEC got a little work to do, man. I mean,
this is where it's weird that you leave it to a committee, because on one hand you can say, well, look at the head-to-head matchup. Yeah, you can. That would make Oregon theoretically rank higher than Ohio State, but Ohio State lost to Oregon. Oregon lost to Stanford. And then you say something about Alabama. Well, why should Alabama be ahead of Michigan State? Alabama lost to A&M, who wasn't ranked. So
yeah,
that's what makes it kind of silly. Like, okay, cool.
Well, they cover for themselves. So like they move teams up based on what they have ahead.
Yeah, we saw it a couple years ago when Oregon was undefeated, and it seemed like every conference champion could go undefeated, and they had Oregon up there so that when they fell, they would have an opportunity to come back, but they just fell too far.
Yeah.
So, Martin, this is, it's a lot of different debate, a lot of different things to work its way out, but I'm still not convinced. Listen, there is a ton of money to be made, and everybody's biased towards the green. Everybody wants more of it. Remember, there's a lot of financial constraints on college football currently. They know by expanding beyond the 4 teams that there's a payday for most of these guys. And in this room, there's a lot of influence. They understand it. They know to push this narrative beyond 4 teams. create a little chaos.
Hey,
Create a little drama.
Ryan Reese, I was in a meeting where Reese Davis was the speaker.
Sure.
He said the expanded playoff in ESPN conversations, they're expecting it to be $2 billion.
Whoa.
Do you think they're going to let that? Do you think
No.
there's any chance, Jacob, that they say, hey, let's not expand. Let's leave that additional $1.6 billion on the table by not adding 4 more teams. There's
I
no.
can advocate all I want for the expansion because it gives us more football, the opportunity
Yeah.
to know if teams are better. But that's just for me. That's just
right.
the way I look at it. I ain't got, I'm not the one raking in millions of dollars off the backs of 20-year-olds.
You're right.
These guys are.
So if you and I want it,
you would find a way to make more money off of this.
So if you and I want it, if you and I want it to see, and you think like I do, having played the game, Jacob, you're like me. I know that for the most part, 9 times out of 10, the favorites when it comes to the Blue Bloods versus those other guys are going to win. But there's only been a handful of times to me where there was truly one of these, we call them group of fives now. It used to be the Boise's of the world. Unfortunately, Boise ran their gamut before the college football playoffs, or they would have been, that conversation every year. But the one time I remember when there was, like, they talk about Cincy against Georgia last year. Georgia really wasn't motivated. But the one time I remember a matchup between a team being motivated, Oklahoma, and Boise being motivated. Boise pulled out all the stops, Statue of Liberty and reverses and double pass. They did everything they could, and they ended up winning that game. Do you remember that game?
We do.
Yeah, and to me, that's the beauty. It's not going to happen very often. 9 times out of 10, if you were to take the Cincy, they're not going to win. But every once in a while, and the reason I know this is because of what happened in '92. There was zero reason on paper to pick Alabama over, Miami. Even though we were, everybody forgets we weren't Alabama the way we're viewed now. We were viewed as they don't belong. They don't deserve to be here. They're a joke. They're this, and this. But we just kept winning, and they finally couldn't keep us out of it. And we beat the team by 21 points. So that's why you want to play it out on the field, and that's why I want the expansion, is because of those few times every so often that dream, team comes together and makes a run, like potentially a Cincy team could.
That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. We'll break here. We'll come back. We're going to talk about some scenarios and what Alabama might be facing on this uphill battle. They're back against the wall. All they got to do is win. We'll talk about it. LSU, first up, Tide 100.9, the home of Alabama from Tide Sports.
You're listening to the Tide 100.9. Are you in the holiday spirit? Check out Tuscaloosa's Home for the Holidays on Nick 97.5. All Christmas songs 24/7.
Get ready to party with John Party. This Thursday night, Tuscaloosa Amphitheater. Live in concert. John Party with special guests Ryan Hurd.